start.
So, hello everyone, very good morning. Today we have with us All India rank 225 Koushik sir. So, our students must be familiar, but anybody who is new, I would like to introduce him that he has consistently scored very good marks in GS, especially in GS2 and GS4. So, sir is going to tell you the strategy that he has used or all the approaches that he has taken with respect to case studies or with respect to quotation based questions and normal public administration based questions. So, how to approach them, and if you have any doubts, you can also ask sir. So, sir is going to take over and start the session. So, if you have any doubts, you can comment in the comment section. Sir will help you with it.
Yeah. So good morning all. Today I'm going to explain the strategy on GS4. Especially first if we see the paper of GS4 and the scoring which has been there, it has been a widely the range of scores have been widely varying. For example, there may be students who will get with 100, will get 140, as well as with GS2. Today we'll look at GS4, and the first thing I would like to tell is the GS4 is about ethics and human values. So values are are the core part, form the core part of this GS4 paper. So what your answer might be looking like, it should be having more values like accountability, transparency, integrity, honesty. So such values should be there. The public administration questions, they'll be in GS2 as well as GS4. But what the difference should GS4 make is that it should be based on changing the behavior or changing the work culture, the values. So such should be the difference. And let us start with the section A questions. So, okay. So first we'll see the psychology part. The psychology part in the sense is that how a individual has been a part of a society and what is the role of family values and how the morals are developed in an individual, and what role does society factors like media or religion, parents, schooling, peer group, such such stakeholders, how do they shape the morals of an individual? So this is related to the psychology part. Directly take some standard source and just by heart the standard points. Almost all questions related to psychology part will be having the same approach. The same points will be keep changing along with examples each year. So in 2023, I think it is one of the easiest paper. So yeah,
2023.
yeah. So to awaken the people, it is the woman who must be awakened. So that is one statement of Jawaharlal Nehru. So in a society, what will be the role of women? So how will they contribute both to household chores as well as economic development and even public welfare as well to SHGs? So these are some standard points even you can get from GS1 paper, that is the society part, and you can link them to the present context with examples. For example, during COVID, there were many SHGs like Jivika model in Bihar and Odisha. It's manufactured like the SHG people were engaged in manufacturing masks, sanitation equipment, and other things. So such will be the role of women in breaking the transmission of COVID virus and uh, helping us achieve SDG 3. If you can add more value with SDG goals. So and apart from that, the GS portion is as well very important. Examples from history you please recall. Examples from polity you can recall, and economy environment as well. So the pestle approach is also very much useful. So some parts like there was a PYQ about a quote by Abdul Kalam. To make a country corruption free, there are three most important stakeholders: the mother, father, and the teacher. So it is direct question from the psychology part. How a mother will shape the values of a child, how a father will shape, and how a teacher will shape. You can write with two examples each of historical examples. How Gandhi was influenced by his mother. His mother had, and uh, yeah, and some teachers you can mention from historical examples like how some examples like Thomas Alva Edison was influenced by his teacher. That is, his mother and teacher are the same person. So his mother became his teacher and taught him moral values as well as how other values like rationality, how to approach a problem without any uh, without any a superstitious approach rather than think it in a scientific way. So that was her approach towards Thomas Edison. So going to the next part, that is quotation based questions. So in resources, proper answer copy will be a more game changing part because of the examples which we obtained from the resources. So you can just quote down the examples if you find them more interesting and more diverse. If you could apply them in many answers. If you find such versatile examples, you can just take a note of them. And in quotation based questions, before the quotation in the main question, there will be a sentence like given below are three quotations. What do each of them convey to you in the present context? So the present context is the most important part here. So many people miss them and keep revolving around the philosophical part of the quote. So rather you should have a body dimension mentioning the what is the present context, how it is relevant. So you can divide the answer into two parts. The introduction, you have to highlight what is the underlying value which the quote holds. Okay, for example, there is a quote that uh, a stick 100 sticks can be broken 100 times, but not 100 sticks at one time. So underlying value is unit equal. So you have to highlight that underlying value in the quote, and that can come in the intro. And body part one, you have to explain 4 points along with the flip side of that quote. So let us take an example. Simplest acts of kindness are by far more powerful than a thousand heads going down in prayer. This was a 2023 PYQ question by Mahatma Gandhi. So he is telling how small actions make a larger change in the society. So how is this relevant? Because if everyone in our society or around in our environment follow simple small positive or kind actions, that the impact will get magnified because the number of people following it are more. And similarly on the flip side, how even the deterioration of society happens, like pollution. If everyone uh, takes out plastic and uses plastic disposal is very unscientific, that may look small at an individual point of view, a person throwing plastic on road. But everyone throwing plastic on road, the impact gets magnified. So the second body part will be about the present context. In present context, you apply the pestle approach. In pestle approach, you think how the quote is more relevant politically, environmentally, socially, technologically, economically, and legally. So if we take the same quote, the simplest acts of kindness, in political angle, you think just on the day of election, going to an election booth and voting. It is as small as as simple as giving half an hour or 1 hour of our time. But what impacts on it makes on our polity, we may not like. It is not needed to describe. And simply and other thing, environmentally, the mission life, like saving water, electricity, energy. So these are as simple switching off a light when we go out. But how many uh, tons of carbon dioxide it saves because our power is produced from thermal power plants. So the coal is burned for our electricity. So if we save our electricity, how much environment positive impact it creates. So similarly, you can think of economically and social angle as well. In social angle, for example, in healthcare during COVID, people just stopped shaking hands and adopted our Indian method of Indian culture of Namaste. It it is although very small and kind act, but helped it helped significantly in breaking the chain of transmission of COVID-19. So that was like such examples you can recall from your GS part. So and the conclusion, what is the significance of the value in the long term and the principles which need to be followed. Like you can give a brief way forward part. For example, to encourage people to act kind, you can uh, give way forward like creating awareness or giving incentives, nudge effect, such thing. Another quote we can see is learn everything that is good from others, but bring it in your own way, absorb it, and do not become others. That was a question given in last year 2024 mains exam. This was quote by Swami Vivekananda. In intro, you can write how the quote highlights originality in each and every individual. How original self of everyone is the most ideal thing which one can follow. And in body part one, why should everyone learn from others? Because in our own self, we may not find all good aspects in the present in the world. We may be lacking some aspects, and some good aspects we can absorb from others. So it is a positive learning aspect. But why we should observe in our own way? We have a sense of identity, and such positive values we have to tailor it to our own identity and our own value system, and we should observe them. What if we become like the quote says, do not become others? What if we become others? So becoming others or like becoming carbon copy of others, it dilutes our sense of identity and hampers our confidence. So that thing you can write in body part one. And it when we become others, we are not very much adapted to face new challenges. So we just try to imitate others, and others may not face some ambiguous situations that we face, and we'll not have an idea of how to face that situation. In again in body part 2, that is in the second page, in 10 markers there are two pages given. In first page you write intro and body part 1. In second one, body part 2, the relevance in the present context. In the political scenario, uh, if we take the example of Indian Constitution, Indian Constitution is said a bag of borrowing, is said to be a bag of borrowings. Means it adopted very much positive values from other constitutions, like rule of law from Britain and the Republican polity system from America. The DPSP is from Irish Constitution. So such it adopted such positive values in its own way. For example, if we take the DPSPs, because Indian society is more of a patriarchal society, there is one DPSP provision to respect women and some other underprivileged sections like scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. That is not there in Irish Constitution, but Indian Constitution absorbed in its own way, so it tailored to its context. That you can write in political scenario. In economic scenario, Indian model of socialism or Indian mixed economy model. After the post-Cold War scenario, the US was engaged in capitalist mode, the USSR in socialist or communist kind of economy. But India wanted to tailor it to its own scenario. It had a mixed presence of both public and private sector that you can mention in economic time, and so on for a social and as well as environmental end. So these are one of the, if you follow a standard approach, these are one of the most scoring questions. At least 5 to 6 marks out of 10, the evaluator is likely to award to you. And questions on public administration like probity in governance, what are the right to information, code of ethics, code of conduct, work culture. So on such aspects, examples are as important as the content. Some examples of standard civil servants I have compiled from 20 to 25. Uh, I have put it in this PDF, the last thing. Uh, so for each point you quote, you need to tell any example. Okay, if we write any code, if we write any answer on, for example, say citizen starter, the HMWS, Hyderabad Municipal Water Supply and Sewerage Board, it has a citizen charter of all the top officials giving a periodic time in their year to interact with the ground level citizens to find any deficiencies or deficit in water supply or sewerage management. So such is a citizen charter of HMWS. You can mention some good points, or even other government departments like railways. You can look into their citizen charter. You can also the second ARC report have just a compilation of that report, 5 to 10 pages of ARC report. There are several chapters in that report. Each chapter gives mostly chapter for ethics in governance. That is more important. So you can just look at a summary because the ARC report is as big as textbook. So reading everything is not needed. You can look at a summary of the textbook. Mostly chapter 4 is very important in GS4 type. You can by heart the content on social audit, corruption, code of conduct. Almost all direct questions will come in this scenario, but he'll ask about examples. If we see in the first question uh, of 2023, moral integrity and professional efficiency, how to link them in corporate governance. So this is as simple as a static part, but Again, he asked you to illustrate with suitable examples. So you need to have a list of examples of positive as well as negative. In corporate governance, for positive, you can give Tata uh, the the Tata work group workforce during the 26/11 Taj Hotel. So how they even courageously perform the duty to save the people who are lodged in, or else during for a negative example, you can mention about Volkswagen emissions scandal in 2015, uh, or recently a news channel has been taken over by a company. It is said to be crony capitalism. Uh, so such examples you can give in Indian scenario as well. So, and second question also he asked with support your answer with suitable examples about international aid. So in 2023 paper, so how international aid is helping resource challenged nations. So, and also one important aspect in this paper is that if you write both dimensions, positive as well as negative, wherever you try to deal in it, you will try to get more marks, because the question is asking comment on ethics in contemporary international aid. He said to comment. Your comment should not be one-sided or one-dimensional. It should be bureaucrats' approach should be two-dimensional. So, what are the positives of international aid? How they are helping resource challenged nations? For example, India's aid to Maldives, Operation NEER, you can give an example, or else earthquake in Nepal in 2015. So, you can mention about Operation Maitri as well. So, for example, if on the negative aspect, you can give example of recent controversy in US aid. US aid was in news for all the bad reasons of because it was helping the terrorist groups. So such was the allegation on US aid, despite US boasting to lead the war on terrorism. The US aid has been funding terror groups. Such was the allegations. So such controversial examples you can give on the negative aspect. So examples are the core, because he is asking in the question directly with suitable examples. Even in the fourth question, if you say context of work environment, coercion and undue influence with suitable examples. So if you do not recall any real life examples, try to create a hypothetical situation. So in GS for 2023 paper, there was he asked to give examples on undue influence. So in any work environment, if you do not recall, or you cannot recall, or you do not know any specific example of an undue influence by an higher officer, you can write a hypothetical example. For example, a higher official has been unduly influencing to release or to do not let us say to just put a sign or to just reward a contract to a particular person, threatening demotion or a hold in his upcoming promotion. So this is in indirect language. He was saying that you might have to face negative consequences if you do not do this thing. Although he was not directly mentioning the demotion aspect, but he was threatening or unduly influencing the others. Such hypothetical examples you can give. And coercion, as you all know, it is a direct threat, and so it is directly demanding what we need, and as well as it may be unlawful as well.
So there is a question, sir. So they are asking how many examples they have to write.
How many examples for each statement, or two examples, 2 to 3 lines each? So for a 10 marker question, if you write 7 to 8 points on whole, you can mention 3 to 4 examples, like for at least to get 5 to 6 marks for 10 marker question. So 3 marks, uh, 3 lines. 3 lines example is not that much desirable. Try to concise the example in 1.5 to 2 lines, and 1.5 to 2 line examples at least four to five are like more than adequate to get more marks. So again, way forward. So in the way forward part, you try to inculcate modern technologies like AI or cloud computing. So in auditing aspect, if you can, uh, if there is any question on social audit, you can just mention about the documentation of the social audit process and storing it on the cloud for any future reference if it has to be scrutinized by the media or by the judiciary or by the CAG as well. So such audit processes you can store in the cloud. So such can be a way forward. Correct. Another one dimension of questions which I missed here is more of current affairs and technology based questions, current affairs based questions mostly. He is asking about, if you see this year 2024 first question, he is asking about artificial intelligence as a dependable source of input in administration from an ethical point of view. So as I had said uh, in the first part of this session, ethics is nothing but revolving around values. So how artificial intelligence compromises or enhances value. Artificial intelligence may compromise values like accountability. For example, an AI model may predict a wrong approach or a wrong scenario which is bound to happen in which is happening in future. Then there is no person who can be held accountable for that wrong prediction. But also, artificial intelligence enhances some aspects like rationality and objectivity. But on the other hand, artificial intelligence compromises transparency and inclusivity as well. Some resource deprived nations or global south nations, or not all nations, can afford artificial intelligence models for their administration purposes. So this hampers inclusivity and creates differences among nations. So the person is asking to critically examine from ethical point of view. Ethical point of view is nothing but values. Critically examine means you have to mention both positives and negatives. And in way forward, it should be mostly a uh, uh, sorry, in the conclusion, it should be mostly a short way forward approach. How of what are the conventions present in international, for example, in the Paris AI Action Summit, you can mention the positive aspects, or the from the previous years the Bletchley declaration from Britain, or the Seoul declaration in 2024. Such examples you can write in conclusion. And coming to the next part, case study. So coming to time limit also, I didn't mention it. So time limit you can divide 1.5 hour for section A and 1.5 hour for section B. So 7 minutes will come for each question in section A and 15 minutes for each case study, reading the case study and answering all the sub questions in the case study. So so case study, if you have a standard approach or in mind, if you fix a standard template for case study, it becomes easier to answer within 15 minutes. Because answering case studies within 15 minutes is probably the most difficult part in this paper. So I have followed this approach: intro plus answering various sub questions, that is discuss the ethical issues, options available, critical examination of options, course of action, and conclusion. So intro in case study will be a little bigger. So in final exam, you will in the question come answer booklet, you will have nearly 4.5 pages for case study. It is desirable that you fill all the pages, even though the word limit is exceeded. So intro I'll write a little bigger, nearly 4 lines, 4 to 5 lines. So you have to describe what is the situation. So a case study is not something which has all positive and good things. So a case study is bound to have negative aspects, or it may compromise some moral or ethical values. So you must examine and describe what is the situation, what are the challenges, and what is the duty of you or the main stakeholder. So let us see for an example. In 2023 paper, there was a case study on landslide. So there was a landslide happening, and a pregnant woman was brutally hurt, and she was bleeding, and there is need for blood transfusion. So you as a district magistrate, what is your duty? So you just briefly describe how there was a cloudburst and landslide related to it, how there was loss of life and property, and you as a district administrator, district collector, you have to swiftly deal with the situation and restore the peace, law and order, as well as restore and save as many lives as possible in the disaster management scenario. So that is your duty. So next we'll examine various types of questions which the body part may have. For example, describe what are the ethical issues. So you examine the entire case, you have the entire case in your mind. So in that case, you think what are the negative aspects or which principles or which values have been compromised. For example, there has been a landslide and there is no proper infrastructure for blood transfusion of a pregnant woman. So until you have arrived, there is no medical aid given to them. So this lack of medical aid is an ethical issue because health is a fundamental right to everyone, and not all people are having equitable access to health. So that is one ethical issue. And further, there are rules and regulations for blood transfusion. You need to the process. The blood needs to be procured only through recognized blood bank. So such are the rules framed. So in that haphazard scenario, you cannot contact. It is not practical to contact a blood bank and then transfuse blood to a pregnant woman. So such rules and regulations do not include what uh, such ambiguous situations or such disaster management situations. So the rules and regulations we can say are not complete to all the scenarios. Means they do not augur to all the scenarios properly. So that is an ethical issue here. And even some people in your team, they are not ready to transfuse blood unless they get permission or they get blood from the blood bank which is far away. So the people who are prioritizing rules and regulations a life of uh, more than lives of two people, the pregnant woman and her child and her unborn child. So they are prioritizing rules and regulations more. So that violates the spirit of the law. So the letter of the law is different and the spirit is different. So spirit means what the law intends to create. Okay. Such may be the ethical issues. What are the negative aspects? And second thing, what are the options available? So generally you can write 3 to 4 options. So the first option you have to write is what is negative action. For example, in this case, if we see you as a district collector, if you have to do the negative action, then you have to just wait for the procurement of blood from blood bank. So it will take another 10 hours. You are putting two lives at risk. So that is the negative action. So you're also violating the Article 21 of the pregnant woman and her unborn child. And second thing is inaction, means you are not doing anything. So you're just keeping silent and focusing on other people who have been injured or who have lost their property or the critical infrastructure which has been damaged, and you have set aside the case of pregnant woman. This also puts her life at risk. And third thing is positive action. You're ordering your subordinates to transfuse blood uh, to the pregnant woman, despite you did not procure the blood from the blood bank. Some of your colleagues have the same blood group and they are ready to donate their blood. So without the permission of blood bank, you have taken that step. So that is the positive action. So your course of action should revolve around the positive action and ignore the negative aspects of this inaction as well as the negative one. So and probably this is the most lengthiest question of lengthiest sub question of a case study. Critically examine all the options available. So for each option, you have to write two merits and two demerits. So generally for negative action and inaction, the merits will be some short-term personal safety or some short-term gains. If you see in this particular case, uh, and one such merit of taking a negative action is that you will get saved from any litigation or you'll get saved from any penal action by the government because you followed all the rules and rules and regulations. And in demerits, generally it will be long term for the negative action and inaction. Means in the long term you have guilt of not saving two lives and even violating the fundamental right to life, which is also a human right for all individuals. So that guilt you will have for lifelong time, although you may get saved from any penal action from the government. And it is also very simple because in positive action the merits and demerits get interchanged. In positive action, the demerit will be that you may risk your career because of any penal action from the government because you didn't follow the rules. And the merit will be that you will have a sense of satisfaction, and you'll have a sense of confidence of following the principles of public welfare because you have saved two lives. And most suitable option, you take the positive option. And also why this also in the course of action you have to mention detailed procedure what you will follow, because in this particular question you may order your subordinates to transfuse blood from you'll ask them to donate blood. One of your colleagues will donate blood, but those who will transfuse, they may decline because they may face retaliation from the government. So you as a district collector may not face that much penal action like suspension or removal from service, but the lower or ground level officials, they are prone to such more impactful actions from the government. So they may decline that, sir, our career is at risk, we cannot transfuse blood to the woman. So to address this challenge, you must have a detailed course of action. You will first ask, you will first ask for an informed consent from the pregnant woman. So the pregnant woman must be informed before she has to get a blood transfusion, and that should be recorded as well, because that will be used as an evidence if tomorrow the judiciary inquires into this matter, or the government inquiry is conducted on this matter. And second thing is that you also are a district collector. You are a leader as well as you act as a guide to your subordinates. You cannot get your subordinates punished and you get away scot free. So for this, what we will do? We'll have a we'll have an order in writing. Means you'll just write that I have taken informed consent from the pregnant woman who is in who is risking her life due to blood loss, and you're ordering transfusion. So giving this order in writing, what purpose does it serve? Because it puts the entire responsibility on you. You are taking the responsibility. As a leader, one of the most important aspect is that you must be responsible, as well as uh, you must uh, you must be accountable to the government on behalf of your subordinates as well. So you must be first to take the blame if you are violating any rules and regulations for saving any life or upholding the spirit of the law. So you'll just have an order in writing which will act as an evidence. If the government tomorrow decides to take any penal action, they can just show this order. We have an order in writing from the collector that we have to transfuse blood, and we have just followed the orders of the collector. So the collector is putting the responsibility on him. So generally, such options, they are not written by many candidates in the exam. They just go with the positive action that yes, the blood should be transfused. That's so giving such additional courses of action, they'll give extra marks because the evaluator will have a balanced opinion on you. So this person, despite just saving a life, he also took into consideration the careers of his subordinates, and he also handled that well by giving written orders. So, and mentioning the course of action, equally important part is why you took that course of action. So why did we take that course of action? Just by heart these four questions and pose your questions and pose these four questions in your mind. Uh, so the first question you have to pose in your mind is what am I, or what are we guilty if the wrong action is followed. The second question is what will be the consequences of wrong action. Uh, should we not hesitate? Why should we not hesitate to take the right action, and what should we be guided by? So the first, if we examine this with the blood transfusion case, if we take the wrong option, that is, we do not transfuse the blood, and we when we send our team to get blood from the recognized blood bank, so this will take hours of time. So what are we guilty if the wrong action is followed? We are guilty of violation of right to life of the pregnant woman and her child. So this is why we took that particular course of action, and we are also guilty of leaving her family without any without a uh, means We are also separating the woman's family and the woman. So that is also we are guilty. And what will be the consequences of wrong action? So consequences of wrong action may not be from the government, but from in ourselves. We'll have guilt. We'll have a crisis of conscience, and such thing will be a long term. Maybe maybe until the end of our career, or up to the end of our life as well. That will be the negative consequence. And why should we not hesitate to take the right action? So the course of action which I have described, like blood transfusion, informed consent, and giving written orders for transfusion, why should we not hesitate to take such right action? Because if we take the wrong action, that will set a negative precedent for our subordinates. If our subordinates face such a situation in the future, they may resort to the wrong action as well. They may take us as an example. So our character has in the past followed wrong action, so we are bound to follow the same action in the future as well. So to explain this, you can use some keywords like slippery slope. Means it will be a slippery slope for the subordinates to follow only the rules and regulations. That is, follow only the letter of the law, ignoring the spirit of the law. And fourth thing is, what should we be guided by? So you can write any aspects like the spirit of the constitution or constitutional morality, constitutional values, principle of public welfare, or any, if you can take any standard personality and give his ideologies like Gandhi's talisman, if you are aware of it. Like what action you should take, it should augur well to the poorest of the poor. So these four reasons, these four questions you pose in your mind and just try to answer those questions and write those answers in the paper. So these are the reasons or why you are taking that particular positive course of action. So these will become the answers. In conclusion, find a long-term solution such that the problem does not arise in future. So conclusion, if you write some long-term solutions, the case will look more complete. If we take in this debt transfusion case, what will be the long-term things? What will be long-term things in the sense? You'll have a remote connection with, or you'll use satellite internet. You'll use such. You'll use drones. Uh, so one of our colleagues have mentioned can use technology like drone delivery. Yes, you can mention drones, deploying drones for the faster acquisition of blood. So such long-term solutions they can be written so that the problem does not occur in future as well. So this is the thing. And in case study, some a new trend has emerged from 2023. I'm seeing he is asking also more GS based questions in case studies, like what are the laws related, or what how AI will balance with environment. That was one of the sub question in case study asked in 2024. In 2023, there was a case of woman civil servant who was not having a proper work-life balance. Means her work life was very much dominating, and uh, uh, actually the question is asked has asked something like what are such laws which are made for women, making a workplace more safe, equitable, uh, something like that. So you have to write the names of the laws actually. So for a safe workplace, you can write the Prevention of Sexual Harassment at Workplace Act 2013. For a another thing like to understand some female based aspects like maternity, you can mention Maternity Benefit Act 2017. It was amended to give a 26-week paid leave to the pregnant woman. And apart from that, you can mention code on wages. So the code on wages does not allow any employer to discriminate men and women based on their pay scale. So equal pay for equal work. And apart from that, you can mention in the labor code as well the operational safety and health code, OSHC code. That mentions the safety standards which must be placed for women as well. So some industries like mining industries, the safeguards for women, the code will mention. So you need to have a bit GS knowledge as well. In artificial intelligence, sorry, in 2024 first question, first case study. Uh, what measures you would adopt to maintain a balance between AI innovation and environmental footprint. So he's directly asking a GS3 question actually here, right? GS3 like points 4 to 5 points is enough, like having renewable energy for powering the AI models, or having carbon capture technology for storing the emissions uh, from the electricity needed for AI models, or even data centers. The heat from data centers can be used for heating of the homes in uh, the mostly in the Western countries. This is used. So such AI innovation and environmental footprint you need to mention. So be ready for GS3 questions as well in the case studies part. So this was a changing trend I observed. And let us look at some questions. Is it okay to include unconventional thinkers? Goldman for EA for definition of each keyword. Yes, if the space is there and you are not having any more relevant answer, you can mention the thinkers as well, because not many people are uh, aware of more than 10 thinkers, because mostly they'll read the something like Rawls, Gandhi, and James Mill, and they'll have mostly idea of 10 to 12 thinkers. But if you have more number of ideas, you can mention them in your intro as well. Can we use technology? Yeah, can use technology in case studies. Sir, when in a case study where options available and analyzing options are two separate questions, do we need to combine both or follow the order on the demand? So in each case study, they separately ask the questions. When he asks to mention the options available to you, you just mention the negative action, positive action, and inaction. In if they ask to examine the options as well, so mention the options and critically examine each of them. So you have to mention the option. Under that option, you have to give a subtable. One side you have to write merits, other side demerits. So 2 points each under merits and demerits. And further, I also want to mention that on the options available, if you are not having any template which augurs to negative action, positive action, or inaction, you just write some approaches like mm, the deontological approach, teleological approach, common good approach, justice approach, and virtue approach. I think these are the standard approaches present in books. So you just understand the meanings of this and try to generate the options available to you based on these ideologies. So you think how a common good approach means our uh, how our actions will augur well to almost all of the society. And teleological approach, it is most like the greatest good for greatest number of people. For example, if you catch hold of a terrorist and you want to get information from him, so torturing a terrorist may hamper the human rights of the terrorist and a dignified life, uh, or a dignified treatment, but it will augur well, or it is needed to save the lives of millions of people who are present in our country. So a teleological approach says you need to torture the terrorist, or you need to so that you can extract information from him. You need to drug the terrorist, or other other violent options you can take for the greatest good of the people. So you please think on deontological, teleological, common good, justice, and virtue approaches. So if any doubts you have, I'll answer.
Especially mains aspirants who are attending online, you can ask your doubts because it's going to be helpful.
So how to write good introduction in theory as well as case studies. So in theory, mostly the introduction will be in relation to what the theme of the 10 marker question is asking. So If we take 2024 paper, uh, question 2A, it is about major weapon industries uh, gaining profits in the current war scenario. So you can write a good introduction linking to this weapon industries theme based on current affairs. For example, American industries like Lockheed Martin and Boeing, they are manufacturing this defense equipment. If you are writing the answer now, recently the bunker buster bombs of the US were in use. If we technically call them GBU 57 bombs, they are manufactured by the Boeing company in USA. So such private weapon industries, they have been gaining profits because US has been procuring them, and it has dropped recently on Iran. Or that is a current affairs based introduction. Or if you do not recall any current affairs, that is, if the question is more static, you just write definitions of the keywords. So if you take the second question in 2024 paper, the question is just about ethics and key dimensions that influence human actions. You can just write the example of, sorry, the definition of ethics. So how it is a set number of values accepted by the society as standards, and every individual is expected to follow them. So next you address the body part. In case of quotation based questions, the introduction you need to mention is about the value underlying the quote, or the theme which is underlying in the quote. For example, in 2024 paper, second question on quotation question, faith is of no avail in the absence of strength. Faith and strength both are essential to accomplish any great work. So the question directly is mentioning faith and strength. You mention what is faith, how it is a belief on ourselves or on the society that a particular will progress toward a particular goal, or will achieve that particular goal. And you mention what is strength, that is the the extent of our efforts we put in achieving that particular goal. So just such definition or underlying values. In case studies introduction, as I have mentioned, it should be the introduction should briefly explain all the scenario present in the case, and it should also mention what is your duty or what is the duty of the main stakeholder in that case. In 24 paper, if we see the second case study about an IPS officer dealing with radicalization of youth. So you just mentioned the case involves unlawful radicalization of youth, which hampers the public order or on the law and order situation, and it boosts or it fuels terrorism. What is your role as a DG of a state? Your DG of a state uh, is to curb the unlawful radicalization and bring the perpetrators to justice. And you also have the duty such that such radicalization does not get into your state without your knowledge. So that is your duty. 2021 second question is asking about 10 values and has another part as well. How do we go about examples here? So examples should be as brief as possible. So he asking about 10 values. So you need to mention them as brief as possible, less than one line, and also to address the second part. For example, a desirable value is for civil servant is non-partisanship and impartiality. You just write example TN Session as Chief Election Commissioner. That is enough, because everyone know about TN Session and what was his duty as a Chief Election Commissioner. And similarly, other examples like as a civil servant should have courage is an important example that one should have. So you just mention courage, the significance within one line, and example you write about Satyendra Dubey who was assassinated for whistleblowing. So despite having a threat for his death, he was courageous enough to whistleblow the corruption matter, and unfortunately he got assassinated later. So that is one courage example. So example should relate to the answer. If the dimension is having 4 to 5 points, then example can be 1 to 1.5 line long. But if 10 such points you have to write, then please keep the examples brief and concise. So how to prepare for code-based questions and sources for them, please. So I'll share the sources and a bit of anecdotes with Shiva sir. You can get the sources from him, which I have followed personally. And code-based questions, the intro will be the value underlying or the theme underlying in the code. The body part will be divided into two parts. First part will revolve around our approach on the code, that is how we'll examine the code into more detail. The second body part will apply mostly pastel approach, how it is relevant in the present context, and conclusion will be the long-term significance of the code, or it will be a mostly way forward, or how our current society or environment around us will get benefited from that particular code. So this is briefly the code-based approach which I have told. And any other questions you? So if you want to practice the ethics questions, I will recommend to practice the 2022 paper, 2022 GS4 paper, because that paper is as long as possible. That has been made as long as possible. The case studies were nearly 700 to 800 words long, and even the 10 markers were 3 to 4 lines long. So if you want to do rigorous practice, you can practice them. You have to in 10 marker you have to understand first what is the uh, meaning or what is the demand he is asking in the question, and then so you have to understand then that and write that within 7 minutes. And again you have to move to case studies. They are as long as possible. Each case study is having 5 sub questions under it. So reading that long case study and addressing all the 5 sub questions, it is as hard as possible. If you want to practice that, practice for ethics paper, you can take that PYQ paper. Sir, how do you prepare these examples and what are the sources? So I have joined one institute, and then they gave, actually I have joined for essay preparation. So for essay he gave several anecdotes, and for each theme like healthcare, media, education, poverty, women empowerment, international relations, economic issues, as well as for philosophical essays, he has given the content along with several anecdotes for each content along with quotes as well. So this was very much overlapping with the ethics paper examples. So that was my only source for both essay as well as ethics examples. And if you want examples for any civil servants, specifically for ethics paper, I have compared a list of 18 to 20 civil servants I have given to sir, and I think that that PDF will be uploaded here. This is a list of 17 civil servants which I have followed. So these are the first nine and up to 17. So civil servants as well as some historical examples like Battle of Saragari in 1871. Uh, Mostly it is about civil servants and what were their significant contributions, because civil servants most of them remain unheard or they remain behind the curtain. So you have to do a bit research on what they have achieved to write in the ethics paper. And apart from this, if you find you are feeling short of examples, recently the chat GPT or DeepSeek models have come, which are more which make the work of students easier. You can just type examples of near 25 civil servants useful for a UPSC ethics exam. The AI model just will give examples as well as description what they have achieved. So it is as simple as that. Uh, but whatever source you follow, repeatedly revise them, because in exam there will be time constraint, and you have to write as much value addition and examples as possible within that 7 minutes or 15 minutes. So you have to be well prepared, and examples should be on your fingertips. You should not stop writing in the exam to just to think examples. So they should be on your fingertips. So revise your sources as much as possible. Instead of reading more sources, revise them as much as possible. And definitely what you have read will be relevant in the answer in one part or the other. So revision is the key along with writing practice.
So there is a question that how many tests they should write before going to exam.
Uh, if you have writing practice before mains, means before the prelims exam is conducted, means writing practice means you practice 1 to 2 questions daily or 1 to 2 case studies daily. Then four papers, like four full length papers of ethics are sufficient between the gap of prelims and mains. If you still not get hold of the time limit, or you're yet to start writing, I think it is better to focus more on daily answer writing, daily writing of questions. Daily write 4 questions to 5 questions on the 10 markers and 2 case studies. So to start with, this is the better one. If you're already proficient enough, 5 full length papers in the gap of prelims and mains is sufficient. But if you're starting, if you're starting to write yet, so focus more on daily writing, and the number of tests maybe 2 to 3 you can write. That also even 20 days before the exam, in the time span of 20 days, you can write 2 to 3 tests. But in the remaining 50 60 days, every day answer writing is must, because of all the GS papers, completing ethics paper is the hardest of all. Uh, so daily writing is must for one who is starting the preparation.
So I think we have addressed all the queries.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you have any doubts further, you can directly contact at the rate Ace with Ease IAS on Telegram, or you can contact on this number. So if you want to discuss with sir, see, we'll be taking 2025 mains aspirants as a priority, and sir will interact with you directly if you are facing any issues with respect to GS 1234. We'll be taking GS2 session also very soon. So if you have any doubts, you can reach out and we'll connect you to sir. And at the same time, we'll also give you some link or form so that you can fill and you can get the all the uh, sources that sir has used, all the examples and the materials that he has shared. So we'll be converting it to a drive link, and we cannot share more than 500 people through the drive link, so that we are requesting you to fill the form so that it can be sent as a bulk service. Okay, so see you all in the next session. Sir will be coming up with GS2 strategy session. Till then, if you have any doubts, reach out. Thank you.
Thank you.